right. Well, one down.
Too many more to go.
I don't need this today. So if you're welcome to the after show. This is the debate after show, and we will be here after every single debate. We want your comments, your thoughts. You can just hashtag, I don't know. Actually tweet us at Boss FM Digital, I think. Tweet us at Boss FM Digital. We will get your comments. If you've got comments, share them with us. I want to know what people thought when they saw this. We're gonna go we're gonna go through this, and we're just gonna take our time. If you are tuning in for the first time, we're here all the time. We'll talk about the details after that. If you're watching, if you watch that, I know that you had to drink. I had to drink, and I'm still going to drink. So I don't know how else you make it through that. I was kind of comical with it but before everything started. I was like, we'll be live talking about what happened after the senior citizens are done. Not to be ageist at all, but I mean, everything that we watched tonight was just two old white men over the age of 70 throwing jabs. Now, one of them knew what the hell he was talking about, and the other one, we had information before the debate started that he did only 2 hours of debate prep, and this is what happens when you don't study. And so for those of you kids at home, you're stuck at your home school, Robinson Elementary and Smith Middle, whatever your last name is. Study. You need to study, otherwise you'll look like you didn't. You'll look like you did. Okay, so what was the best part of it about? We got a lot of people to talk to. Plus, like I said, your comments. The best way to get them to us is on Twitter at BossFM Digital. Just tweet it, and we got you. Yeah. What did you see, Tiff? What? Talk to me.
Best quote of the night. Will you shut up, man? That was said twice. I enjoyed both times. Because I just really don't understand why it is so hard for him to be smarter than a fifth grader. But it seems that the asshat clown in the White House cannot be and govern himself as smarter than a fifth grader. It should not be that hard to not be disrespectful to your opponent and to allow your opponent to speak and give his thoughts. And I just don't understand what I actually just watched. I feel like I need to go watch something smart to regain the brain cells that I lost.
Did you feel like watching him that you got dumber?
Yes.
I didn't feel like that. I felt like he was trying to play me like for a fool. And you were really trying to talk to people that don't know what's going on. And my frustration with this is not to say, I'm not going to demean I'm going to try, let me say this, because I don't know if that's true. I'm going to try my best not to demean people and their belief. I am going to talk about dumb people. I am going to talk about dumb people. I was trying to get to a point and say that I'm not going to talk about dumb people tonight, but we got to talk about stupidity. We have to talk about why stupidity got us to where we are. And we also can talk about what happened in the last election. You and I were actually here at Boss FM in 2016. I was sick throughout this entire season. And the day that he got elected, I just didn't know how I was going to get on the air.
I believe, if I recall correctly, we drank quite a bit that day. Quite a bit.
But here we are. You have seen this presidency for itself. And a lot of people have asked me, we want you to vote regardless of what side that you're on. But a lot of people are seeing some of this stuff for the first time. They haven't really paid attention, or they never pay attention. But there's a lot of things that I want to talk about, especially when we start talking about polls and what we've seen. A lot of people say, well, the polls were wrong. The polls actually weren't wrong. When we talk about the polls in 2016, and I have issues with polls, right? Because we know how they collect this data. It's not foolproof. There is a margin of error, but I am not an expert on polls, but I can tell you that the margin of error is larger, especially if you're still calling home telephones, and a large chunk of America that's just not, they just don't have those. And then there's a large chunk of America that doesn't even know what those are.
Couldn't tell you.
And so I think that's part of the problem. I think the highlight for me was the fact that, and I'm going to say this a lot tonight. If you, because of what I did, what we do, I have to follow this stuff. So, you know, I watch liberal news, I watch conservative news, I watch nonpartisan news. And one thing that we've seen on the Republican side, a lot of you haven't seen it because you don't know what they're talking about. You don't care what they're talking about. But a lot of things, I think that Donald Trump got ahead of himself and his insults. And one thing that Republicans and conservatives and we'll say Trump supporters, because they try to separate themselves, one thing that they stood on was the fact that Joe Biden was inept, inadequate, unable. Rudy Giuliani was on networks this morning talking about how Joe Biden has 8 out of 10 signs of dementia. This morning, they call him Sleepy Joe. If you watch conservative news or a conservative commentary, they talk about how he looks like he wakes up and he looks tired and he looks like he just needs some hot cocoa and a nap. And what I liked was that the fact that they had made it seem like this man is decrepit and unable to perform. He has lost all of his faculties. He was awake tonight.
Wide awake.
He was awake. He was aware. He had information. And I think that regardless of where you are, I think people have issues with Joe Biden for one reason or the other, or they have issues with Donald Trump for one reason or the other, or 50 reasons or the other. I think that if you were looking for policy, which if you listen or watch on Muted Nation, you know that I've been talking about policy, period. That's all. I don't care about them. I don't care about who they are, what they do, I don't care about any of that. I care about the policy. My problem with Kamala when she was running for president was I didn't hear any policy, and I just saw that beautiful laugh all the time. Whenever they asked her a question, she just laughed. Joe did not give us, I was ready for him to give us what he was giving us as Uncle Joe when he was with Barack Obama. I'll take you out back. I'm like, all of that the Joe stuff.
The rhetoric.
We got it. The shut-ups, Trump was not ready. Trump was not ready. I'm just gonna call. I can't wait to look at all that, because I know that you probably missed some things. I missed some things because we're moving around and there's just so many missing parts. Of course, I can't be a part of an event like this and not tweet. But I think that there were things that were missed. I think that I think a lot. I want to talk to, I want to hear what other people think, and I want to kind of jump into that conversation. But seriously, when it comes to if we had to elect a president off of merit, we didn't know either one of them. I didn't know if I was going to ask this question, but let's say we didn't know either one of them, and we had to vote for a president tomorrow based on the policy that you heard tonight. Where's your vote going?
Biden. He's the only one that I actually heard not just launch attacks. He actually gave a little bit of some plans, especially when it came to the science on climate change. So alone on that and maturity. Well, you said if we don't know them, but he's the only one that I somewhat heard give a plan.
Oh no, you could definitely infer after tonight only that one of them was mature and one of them was not. I have a prediction, and I want to read my prediction accurately because I don't want to misspeak my own quote.
Okay.
I do not know, and we will. I'm not going to watch his Twitter feed tonight, but those of you that follow Donald Trump and you know anything about Donald Trump know that he will be tweeting all night long. I believe. I truly believe that tonight he will possibly say that he's not going to do another, that he was treated unfairly, that he will not do another debate unless there's a fair moderator, and he's going to probably select somebody like Jared Kushner. And that's the only way he would feel that it's safe. And I feel like he's just going to say that it was unfair. Now, mind you, Chris Wallace is from Fox News. Chris Wallace is not an opinion commentator at Fox News. He's an actual journalist. And I think Chris Wallace also, I'm going to give him his props. Chris Wallace held his own tonight. Chris Wallace held both candidates accountable for what they agreed to. And the moment that Chris Wallace stopped, I thought that, Chris had interrupted them a number of times, but I think he got to his wits' end. He said, "Sir, you and your campaign, you have agreed to abide by these rules. You have agreed. I mean,
you are the one interrupting the most. You need to abide.
And him, he's like, no, you. And the deflection, right? Like even when he was called about what he was doing in the moment, like this man will lie all constantly, but in the moment when he was called on something that he did 30 seconds ago, he's like, no, it was him. Like, don't look here. I'm not really here.
Look at the man behind the curtain.
It was him. It was him. No, bro, it was you.
And even when Biden went up against him, not up against him, but when Biden reminded him of how he called the protesters in Charleston, there were good people on both sides. Play the whole statement. That was.
You know what? I was gonna say that my favorite moment was that Biden wasn't in need of cocoa and a tummy rub and a nap. The moment there was a moment of reckoning where, oh my goodness, it just escaped me. It'll come back.
Okay.
It'll come back because there's a lot going on. It'll come back to me. But there was a moment where there were moments, but there was a moment that I was like, I got it. It's back.
Okay. I'm glad.
Sir, at this time, Chris Wallace asked Donald Trump, he looked at him and said, will you renounce white supremacy?
Oh.
I also believe, I'm going to quote myself on this one as well. This is a clip that you will see over and over and over again until November 3rd. Chris Wallace asked this man, will you renounce white supremacy right here, right now? Don't look confused. Like, I know you're supposed to be on my team. We're Fox News. Come on, bro. He's like, will you renounce white supremacy? I mean, well, what do you want me to say? When Donald asked him, what do you want me to say? It was done. Because I was like, oh, he's not going to answer this question. Well, there's all types of, in Antifa, and Joe, you need to be concerned about Antifa. They're gonna end you too. We'll talk about Antifa because there's a lot of Black people watching that don't have a clue what that is, and they don't even know that like there's 30% of white people in the world that think that Black people are controlled by Antifa, and I know so many people that have no clue who they are.
Director. When Joe Biden said, your own FBI director said this, I tweeted that and then said, fact check, Biden's correct. Here's the article, period. But I want to make sure that we talk about that Antifa moment, the Green Deal and the Paris Accord, because I really think that those are some important things that each candidate hit on and have very stark differences in what their plans were, or policies were, or beliefs were. So I want to make sure we hit all of those. I'll give it quickly, and then I know we have some commentators who are going to give their thoughts.
There's lots of people here to talk, and I'm ready for it. People keep texting me, so that's why I'm looking all over the place. I got screens everywhere. But we're here again. If you're a Tiff, let's jump into this. If you're just now tuning in, your comments at Boss FM Digital on Twitter. We will get your comments and join in.
Yeah. Number one, Antifa. Trump's own FBI director, Biden was correct again, this is another fact check, that Antifa is an ideology, not an organization. It is not just some big organization that's trying to control people and control thoughts or anything like that.
I want to insert this because a lot of people they still don't put it together. It means anti-fascist.
You want to try it again?
Nope.
Okay.
Okay. I sure don't.
Okay.
It means that. Okay. And so that's why it's an ideology, because people are against. It's kind of like you're anti-communist.
Yeah.
What are they gonna call them, man? Never mind.
Let's not.
They come up with names for everything, and that is never mind. I'm gonna let you finish because we got things to do.
Number two, Biden mentioned that he was not a proponent of the Green New Deal. You and Trump try to make it seem like it was a big deal. There are parties on both sides that are not a fan of the Green New Deal. It has pros and it has cons, depending on which side of the house you are on, and not necessarily uh, is that divided by party lines. There are just good and bad things in the deal. Some think it's rushed, some think it is not well thought out. It doesn't hit all the points, or it hits too many points, or it's not specific enough. It's too specific. So it really just depends. But for those who are not aware, Green New Deal has to deal with climate change and climate impacts, which leads to the Paris Accord. The Paris Accord is an agreement that Trump pulled out from in 2017, which could have major impacts. The United States produces nearly 1/5 of all global emissions. So, with the US withdrawal from the accord, it could vastly impact the carbon output, the renewable energy sources, which Biden talked about, and climate measures that we need to get down. I don't know if you saw this, Alex, but a clock, a timeline, counting down was just put up. That's basically counting down to how long we have to get our.
It's here in New York.
Together, basically.
There's a countdown.
It's 7 years, right?
Till the year until we're
It
done.
doesn't get bigger than that. Like it just went up, what, a week, maybe 2 weeks ago. The days are running together because Corona, but which was another thing that they hit. But climate change is a real thing. And when questioned on climate change, Trump said, I reduced the cost of cars, and cars were getting very expensive, and we need forest management, and we've got to clean out the dead old trees.
Before we bring in everyone else, I said something to my team this week, and I was like, I've accepted a truth. Dumb is dumb. Dumb trusts dumb. Dumb believes dumb. Dumb listens to dumb. Don't be dumb.
That actually could be a political ad. Here's an apple. Here's an orange.
I think I made my point.
Just on the flip side, Biden, when asked about climate change and if he believed the science, or what he believed about the science behind climate change, Biden mentioned the goal to be net zero by 2035 and wants to take 4 million buildings and weatherize them, reducing the energy that is output by them and that is used to operate them. He also talked about reducing emissions. He wants to take federal fleets and make them electric. So he had some good plans. And when Wallace, which I thought was a good point, when Wallace asked him, well, this sounds expensive. Many Trump supporters and Trump himself are questioning, how is this going to be paid for? Or will it be expensive? Biden responded with, it will create millions of jobs. And that has been the going theme since Obama days. They've talked about renewable energy and reducing emissions to help reduce our climate impacts. And they've always said that it will create millions of jobs. They're not trying to take jobs away from those that Trump is trying to basically say, they're going to take your job away if we go the renewable energy source. No, you're going to take the planet away if we don't do something about this. At this point,
I think a lot of people don't realize that, like, when you it's too early for me to just snap. So yeah, let's there's so much. I also want to talk about the Supreme Court, but we'll get there. Joining us tonight, I'm just gonna bring them all in for now because they're all here. So joining us tonight, Kia, Erica, and Tariana. Welcome to the after show.
Hey y'all, welcome.
Hey.
So we're going to go in order because I think there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to discuss. There are other people popping in and out, and so I brought in who I could see. I'm good with that. Kia, I'll start with you because you're right here next to me. Best moment of the night.
Oh, it was such a good political satire. I'm glad that Netflix is sponsoring this for all of us to watch, because
It's
that's
it's
the only
it's
way I
it's
could
almost
engage.
unbelievable. It's almost unbelievable.
That's the only way I could engage without like breaking down into tears of pain and distractness.
Sadness.
Yeah, because I mean, I just laughed like it was a comedy. It was the I will say it was the moment when he told the Proud Boys to stand down, which I'm not sure if he's just that bold or that slow, or if it's just a
Slow.
combination of the two.
Slow is the
Because
word.
Is
it like I was dumbfounded that he let that slip. Like he has no control to even pretend to be anything other than a white supremacist
Period.
and
And
narcissist.
I want to say this because white people can't see it. Oh, actually, I'm gonna take that back. They can see it, they won't acknowledge it. They will not acknowledge it because I'm gonna call as somebody that has done this for as long as I have. I know there's a few things when you are on a platform like that and you got a squad, you got a team. There are certain things that they're like, listen, you can be yourself. People want to know that it's you. So before I say this, let me make two designations. I want people to be clear, and we've talked about this, especially those of you that have come to the nation and to the cabinet before, that Donald Trump does not have to appeal to anybody but his base. He's not really, like, while he's talking to America, he was there talking to America tonight. Donald Trump only is looking to appeal to his base.
But there's one more thing that he's doing. He's trying to divide the Democratic base. So a lot of him pushing Joe to push back against progressive ideas is him trying to pull votes, not necessarily to him, but to just dissuade people from going to vote for Joe Biden.
100%. And I was gonna say it's his base. His goal is to invigorate his base and to suppress everybody else, right?
That's it.
So the strategy of in voter suppression, let's make this clear for those of you watching for the first time, it does not look like 1960. They're not asking black people to guess the number of jelly beans in a jar before they can vote. But they are saying things like, well, Democrats have never done anything for you. Or there's nothing tangible that look at your cities. And I'm gonna tell you when I know that he went off script. He can do what he wants on his Twitter account. He can do what he wants because he only talks to Fox News. You cannot get in front of, we don't know how many people were watching tonight, but in 2016, when he debated Hillary Clinton, 84 million people were watching broadcasts. That does not even include streaming. Tonight, I can guarantee you it was more than that. You cannot get in front of in front of America and start talking about Democrat cities. That's the moment that I knew that he completely lost it. Joe had just pissed him off and he was completely off script. The moment he started talking about Democrat-run cities, and Democrat-run cities are the ones that are falling apart and Democrat policies, sir, you are the president, right? Nothing that you say to people, especially in Democratic-run cities, about what life is going to be like under Joe Biden when you are the current president and you are our current reality. So I think, like,
as sad as that may be,
like, I was really sad, in 2016 when I was like, damn, how are we gonna do this? I literally tapped into my own evangelicalism. Is that a word?
It is, but it was a little staggered, but that's okay.
But I was like, maybe he's gonna get. I was listening to Barack. Okay, maybe he's going to become. The office is going to make him presidential. I started telling my listeners that I literally was telling people that. Like, let's just have some faith. But no, it's been a disaster. It feels like I've never two things, and then Tia, I'm gonna let you think. I don't think that you could have told me in any of my history classes that America would be at this point.
You know what?
When you ask me what point is that, every day is doomsday.
Yeah.
Every day.
I compared it to a text in the class today. I actually compared 2020 to apocalyptic literature in the Bible today.
Well, I have this theory that the rapture has already happened and we are the ones left behind.
Wait. Now, Kia, before we go there, because I literally text people and say, I really think that we are actually in hell.
You were
Do you
left.
watch The Good Place?
Like this.
I would disagree with the hell statement. I don't think we're in hell. I think we've like passed the level below hell. Like we're in the basement where hell and purgatory meet.
That's a weird depth.
That's where I think we are.
It is because I'm like, there's no way that all of this could just be happening
every day. Every day. Revelation says torment goes up and up. And I said, that's 2020. That's 2020.
Know your text. Know your text.
Like
I'll just say I want to hear Tariana and Erica what your best moments. But as people are like, I can't wait for this year to be over, I am no longer rushing into New Year's. Okay? If I have learned anything in 2020, it's that I'm gonna take my time here. You don't know. We thought 2020 was gonna bring great things. I thought 2020 was gonna be great since 2010. I've been looking forward to 2020 in all seriousness. So no, I'm not looking forward to 2021. Not at all.
Because then 2020 got here and said, "Gotcha, bitch." I'm curious as to everyone's thoughts. In 2016, when Asshat Clown won the election, did you think it would get this bad? Looking at tonight's debate, did you think it would get to this point?
Yes.
Every person just shifted in their chair.
I actually thought of a story. I was working at this church, Peachtree, upper middle class white church. And my supervisor at the time, white man, was like, everyone's overreacting. It won't be that bad. And I had to come out of my work role and say, sir, you have the privilege of saying that because whatever happens will affect you last. But Black and brown folks, women, we don't have the privilege to say, oh, it won't be that bad because it will, and we will feel it first. And here we are, past hell.
Here we are, past hell.
Like, not just past hell. It's like, why? Like every single day, why? And I can keep going on. Tariana, what was your best moment of the night?
I actually had two best moments. The first one was when the moderator asked Trump, "You want to switch seats with me?" That sent me. No, I actually was in here cooking, and I turned around and was like, "That's it." Because ask him, because I'm getting annoyed. My second best moment actually came after the debate when I saw Jill Biden's dress, because that was an ensemble.
I didn't see Jill.
I missed that.
I missed the walkouts. I didn't see much of anything, but
so after it was over, they were just doing a lot of like talking, and of course, Trump and God bless her was up there, and he was looking clueless as always. And then as the camera flashed back, it got to Joe, and he was hugging Jill, and the camera got her whole silhouette, and I was like, this is giving me very much so Christmas party after 5. I like that.
I'm done.
Question about that. Do you think Jill would restore the Rose Garden?
I think Jill would have a brain that other people don't. Because for me, anytime I see who is holding the office of FLOTUS at the moment, I just be like, the mall is open, but ain't nobody shopping.
Unfortunately, though, your analogy is going to have to change. The malls aren't open. Actually, everything's closed.
Like
I don't know that if we keep going down this path, malls won't be able to have like one store. Macy's is not going to last. It's just.
Oh Lord, don't say about Macy's. I got to go call and check all this.
It just is not going to happen. Erica, your best moment tonight.
You know what? My best moments tonight weren't on the screen; they were on Twitter. TJ Holmes said, "Bet money before the end of the night, Chris Wallace is going to say, "Shut the F up." And I was like, yeah, probably. I agree with Soledad O'Brien that he did not have a handle on things, but I also think that he got dealt a hand that he couldn't really potentially deal with.
Yeah, I saw that commentary. I don't know that you can handle this.
Right. Absolutely.
Because the problem is actually Donald. The problem is Donald is a media genius, right? So when it comes, he's an idiot, okay, and an asshole and a jerk. He's all of those things, right? I really have trouble calling him anything but Donald. But I think that he knows how to get a reaction. So the reason that he's holding rallies is because he is a entertainer. So just like I'm gonna use Beyonce as an example. You know, she says something, the crowd goes wild, and then she's activated. Donald Trump is the same way. And so the problem is he doesn't activate the average person. He literally activates racists and bigots. And so he activates racists and bigots with what he says. And if you've ever seen his rallies, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but in his rallies, he doesn't have to say much to get his bigots going. All he does, he starts out and says, Omar. He doesn't even say, like, he's talking about Representative Ilhan Omar, but he doesn't even say her whole name. As soon as he says Omar, booze, booze.
Yeah.
Booze, booze, booze. And he's like, she's trying to tell us how to run our country. Bro, she's an American.
Yes.
Not only is she an American, she's an American congresswoman.
Yes.
Put some respect on her name.
Like,
maybe call her representative.
Tell us how to run our country. And then white people, and this is where, you know, you got to call it how you see it. White people look me in the face and go, how could you say he's racist? He's done so much for the black community. Look what he's doing for crime reform. So you're racist too, because we're not all criminals. I am happy about what he's done with crime reform. That's wonderful. Like the little steps that he has been a figurehead, because he hasn't done anything. Let's be clear. He hasn't passed any sweeping legislation. He hasn't made any changes. He hasn't closed any prisons. He hasn't changed any laws. He hasn't done anything. He's freed a few black people, and he's like, oh, that's the black agenda. Well, no, there's not one black agenda. There's just not one.
And had to be convinced to free those few by other media geniuses. Let's be clear. Those were by other PR geniuses that had to convince him to free, because it's all about the media. It's all about how many ratings I can get. We're not talking about what's right. We're not talking about decency, as Joe Biden mentioned. And I got my issues with that as well. But we're not talking about decency. We're talking about, oh, no shade. You know, some of y'all love her. I don't feel one way or another. But no shade. We're talking about Kim Kardashian came to his office and he was like, oh yeah, maybe I should do that. So
right. While he was, as we know Donald Trump, we know what he was looking at.
Put it out there.
You really think we really think that he was listening to Kim Kardashian? Really?
Absolutely. I mean, Kim Kardashian and his wife have a thing in common. Porn. Yeah. Call the spade.
And
he goes home.
Like I said, welcome to Unmuted Nation. Make sure your drink is full.
This entire presidential debate.
These are the facts, right? And so I want to go back to voter suppression for a minute, because I think one of the main things that I want to address, that we're going to address after every debate, is that voter suppression does not look like it used to. Here I am with my examples, but I can't help myself. I'm going to share one, but they and I think we all probably have examples. The problem is it no longer looks like it used to, right? No, there's not. Donald Trump, if he had his way, it would look like that, because he wants to have law enforcement standing at the polls. And like he was just talking about at the end of the day, the debate, he was like, it's perfectly normal. We want poll watchers. We want poll watchers. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Bro, we are grown-ass people. We can go in there, put a card into a machine, and press a button. We don't need a poll watcher. But there was a post this week. I shared it, Tiff. I shared it with you. I'm going to read it to you guys because we don't have the visual, but I want you to catch the drift of this suppression. And because I know you are people of faith, you'll understand this. If you're not a person of faith, you'll see it too. American politics have left Christians politically homeless. Don't make the mistake of believing that either party fully expresses the values of the kingdom of God. Now, that post was posted by my former youth pastor. You know who I am. I don't mince any words. I don't give a damn. First of all, Christians aren't politically homeless because Christians live on earth, right? Christians are actually people, and people are different colors, right? We're different races. God made us different colors, right? You're white, you're black, you're like whatever you are. I don't think that you're politically homeless because if your politics align with who you are or who your being is, you wouldn't be homeless. You would, and I'm not going to go in. I don't want to break it down. I wanted to use that as an example because I could go into that all day and break it down and to just talk about it there. But that for somebody that is a diehard, if you heard that from your pastor and you are a black person and you feel conflicted because now you're like, I don't know, am I black first? Am I a Christian first? The moment someone gets you to question that, and you choose not to vote, that is voter suppression. That's deliberate voter suppression, and they've taken your right and your choice away.
Yep.
And that's a modern day, I wanted to use that as a modern day example of what it looks like. And that's a great example of what it looks like. It's not going to be in your face like, oh, you can't come in here. Even though maybe in Georgia.
I was about to say, in Georgia, absolutely.
In Georgia, let me change that up in Georgia. Or no, you can't, you're at the wrong place and you go to 3 places and you're still at the wrong place every time you get to the wrong place. Like that happens.
Sometimes you get stopped if you're a bus of people trying to take people to the polls. You get stopped and pulled over for influencing the election when we're just trying to take people to vote. So there's that. Sorry, what's down here in the South, we got plenty of issues with the way that our vote is suppressed.
I'm not coming back. But
it also looks like, oh, you have a middle name on your ID, but not on your voter registration. So you can't vote today. Or it looks like, oh, we're out of the what's the paper that they have to fill out? I can't think of the name of it. But we're out of that, or we're low on it. So I can't give you one specifically because I have to save them for everybody else. These are not exaggerated stories. These are actual reports. Or it looks like, oh, your voter location changed, and then you get to the next one, and that one's closed. Or it looks like not opening for the 2 hours, or you're opening 2 hours late. Or it looks like they closed early. Or it looks like, oh, the machines are here, but the plugs aren't. So we can't help you today. Oh, we have 10 machines, but only 2 of them are working. Sorry. So you'll have to stand in line for 6 hours. Well, I have to go back to work. Well, we close at 7.
Did I hear correctly that y'all were both, all of you guys were going to be poll workers this year?
I actually am organizing to work at the polls and work with the polls. So if anyone wants to do that, hit me up.
So my day job is around get out the vote and supporting, so I can't be a poll worker. Gotcha. But I'm glad you all are having this conversation because I think yesterday it was the British television program, Channel 4 News, broke the story that Trump was actively trying to dissuade Black voters using social media in 2016. And I think we've all seen those tactics and that take root in our communities. We still, just 2 weeks ago, Ice Cube was repeating some of those same talking points. So like the voter suppression is happening. It's happening, like y'all said, in Georgia with the machines and the exact match names requirement. So I think it's really important that we all have a plan and we know what we're going to do, that we are prepared to be confronted with that and we know how to navigate it when it happens. Like when are you requesting your absentee ballot? Are you dropping it in the mail with UPS slowdowns, or are you taking it to a drop box? Do you need a witness to sign your absentee ballot in your state? Are you planning to go and vote early or on the day of election? Do you have your mask and everything you need to stay safe if you're voting? So I think what we need to be doing in this moment is to make that voter plan and to talk to the people around us to make sure they have a plan and provisions for when it's time to vote.
Well said. I mean, 100%. And I think Channel 4 News was great for breaking that, because we all knew, right? Mm-hmm. And I think a quick tip here, I know how much it pains you if you happen to see a comment that you don't agree, a political comment that you don't agree with coming down your timeline. Mm-hmm. I know how much you want to engage and be like, like whatever. Don't, because the algorithm doesn't care, right? The algorithm does not know that you are not in agreement with that statement. So the moment that you see something that upsets you, then you start commenting and you use buzzwords, then you see more of it, because now the algorithm believes that you're somebody that wants to see it, just picks up the words that you're using. It doesn't know who you are, doesn't know what you look like, it doesn't know any of that. And so keep that in mind, right? You start playing these things, and you start playing with Trump and his bobblehead, and you put in your email address and information, your birthday, and all of a sudden they're collecting all of this information about you and sharing it with the Trump campaign. And their attacks, they start, and then the crazy thing is they start to know us. So they know what we like. So they know what we listen to. They know who, what we think is attractive. And so all of a sudden you start seeing those things. And then the things that you think are attractive start giving you pro messages, propaganda. And so it's a very advanced way, but just know that the system is smarter than you.
There are 3 documentaries that I highly encourage everyone to watch before election time. One is The Great Hack on Netflix. The other is The Social Dilemma. That one was just released. And the third is Slay the Dragon. So the first 2 talk about, the first one, The Great Hack, talks about Cambridge Analytica, which was a major company that won the 2016 election.
That was who the news was broken about yesterday.
Okay, so I didn't even read it because I already knew it. I didn't need the proof. But Social Dilemma talks about Facebook and its impact on elections and political ads and campaigns and how it's used. And then Slay the Dragon is an amazing documentary on gerrymandering, which I want all of us to pay attention to, because this year is not just about the presidential election. So I want all of us to keep that in mind. There are a lot of local elections as well that we have got to pay attention to. And Slay the Dragon does a very good, thorough job of talking about gerrymandering, redlining, and the impacts of that and how it can impact your communities. So if you don't watch anything else prior to election season really kicking off and you having to actually go vote, which is now, because early voting, please, watch those 3 documentaries. And they do a really good job and thorough job describing some of the things that we're up against and the fights that we're actually going through.
I have a question, and it's a personal question for everyone. When you talk to people about their concerns, especially with this upcoming election, what is something that you're hearing? Because I think that unless we're having these dialogues and having these conversations, people are making assumptions. One of the reasons that I thought it was really important that we did an after show and that we do this is because we live in this age of misinformation where people don't know the truth. So they know half truths, they know, headlines, they know shade room, and then they try to piece together everything else. So if you only know half of the truth, anything else that seems to complete that puzzle seems to make sense, right? So that's why we find people and they're like, oh my God, Candace Owens, she's so educated, she's so bright, she's such a wealth of information. And it's like, you don't know any information at all because she knows nothing. But
A
you know,
guy I
but
went to high school with said that exact thing like 2 weeks ago.
I hear it often, and it's really because what they offer is all of you are all like dumbfounded, right? But the thing is, if you only know a piece of information, and somebody comes with what seems like the rest of that puzzle, and they put it together for you, then you're like, oh. Well, then maybe I was, what I thought I knew, and then you start to lean into this misinformation. And again, let's talk about algorithms. People don't understand like why so many people are consumed by conspiracy theories, right? I tweeted something today, not trying to be shady, but there was a group of y'all that really thought that 5G caused COVID. Y'all are laughing, but there were people out there that were really believing that and really doubling down on it. And I'm not even trying to be funny. It's just like that's just what people thought. They just believed that.
People also agree with Trump when he calls it the China plague. And I just still don't understand.
I mean, I don't think, but I'm talking about conspiracies, right? I'm talking about conspiracies that people believe. And so what happens with algorithms is you watch one conspiracy video. Whatever you're watching it on is not going to tell you that it's a conspiracy video, but the next video you watch is going to be another one. So you're just all of a sudden you're consumed by it. Then you're like, well, all the information that I saw said that this was true. And it's like, well, you don't realize that you're just being populated with bullshit constantly over and over and over again because that's what you are into. And so, and I'm not to stay there, but in the age of misinformation, it's important that we bring like real issues to the forefront. So going back to my question, what are you hearing? Like what are people feeling? Why are they feeling a certain type of way? Do they know who they or why they've made a certain decision or who they're going to vote for? In your circles, Kia, what do you see?
I see a lot of people who are wrestling with similar language to what we heard in 2016 about they're both being the same, but Joe Biden did this with the crime bill, but he's not really for us. And they're really trying to understand that.
The lesser of two evils.
Trying to understand, yeah. And really trying to understand where me and my needs fits into this. And how can I advocate for that? And just not even knowing, I think we talk a lot about we can push Joe Biden further left or to be more progressive, but I don't think a lot of people know what that looks like. So they don't know what to do with that.
I'm going to come back to that because I have something, but I think I don't know that there is a solution for that just because of the nature of the two-party system that we have. Erica, when you talk to people, like where are they right now with their decision making?
Yeah, it's really tough. For the work that I do in climate and racial equity, I think that so I have a lot to say about what was mentioned around race. Racism. I don't like to say race relations. That sounds nice. It's too pretty for me. But what I have heard, I've had conversations with older family members who are very, very concerned. I'm a millennial. I'm fiercely a millennial. I ride for my generation. I think we get bad rap. I think we get, shuffled around with other generations a lot and have to kind of defend ourselves. But I think that what I've heard from older family members is, I'm really concerned that millennials aren't going to vote. I'm really concerned that, y'all aren't going to go out to the polls. A couple things. Number one, trying to fearmonger people into voting is not going to work. Like you think that's going to fly, it's not. Folks, it actually makes folks want to rebel more because they're really saying to themselves, like, y'all are scary. We've already been dealing with scary. It could get worse, but honestly, we've already been scared. So what's the difference? I'm gonna do what I gotta do, and many of the people in my immediate circle are gonna do what we have to do. But a lot of the generations, Generation X, baby boomers, a lot of the generations above us or older than us are really concerned that we're not gonna go out to the polls. And I think that there has to be another approach than like be terrified of Donald Trump. That is not making people get out and vote. And honestly, people have drawn more similarities between Donald Trump and Joe Biden than they have differences between the two men. We're talking about between the two people. We can have conversations about parties, we can have conversations about the Democratic Party, but people have drawn more similarities and have leaned their decisions not to vote on drawing those similarities. And so I think we need another approach in public discourse about why people should be voting one way or another, instead of saying you should be terrified of another 4 years of Donald Trump. Does that give me a little bit of twinge of scary? Yeah, it does. But also what gives me a little twinge of scary is 4 years of what we've already been dealing with, 4 years of pacifying us, 4 years of empty promises. That also concerns me as well. And so again, I personally am going to do what I need to do, but I understand where people are coming from, and I'm not as quick to condemn people or to, write them off as stupid or idiots, because I understand where people are coming from. Now, I will try to, get with my folks, close doors and be like, hey, let's talk. But at the same time, this public discourse of fear mongering, especially pitting generations against each other, is really not. It's not going to give us the folks who are voting and the folks who need people to vote. It's not going to give us the outcome that we're
totally. I hear where you're coming from. Same question, Tariana.
I think Erica said it best in the most plain way it can be. I think for me specifically, I'm at the tail end of the millennial generation, so I'm almost considered a Gen Z. But sorry, I hate to dismiss y'all, but
don't do them like that.
I hold true.
Don't do them like that.
Listen, to the death of me, I'm gonna hold true to my last year of the millennial status. Okay. But I think exactly what Erica said. There is this sense of almost a divide. Like nobody wants what has occurred the last 4 years. Nobody wants to live through that anymore. But at the same time, nobody wants the uncertainty of what could happen for the next 4 years. Like, of course, nobody's with Trump. Nobody in my generation or in the generations after me are with Trump. Nobody wants that. But unfortunately, Biden isn't really selling it for Gen Z.
I hear it.
It is almost. I think millennial generation and Gen Z have one little small caveat in common. That sense of radicalness that Joe Biden isn't providing. He's almost doing everything that he does is almost passive aggressive. So it's like, nah, I don't agree with that, but I don't necessarily agree with this either. And for a political election, you can't fall in the middle. Like you can't pick a side. And with the elections being literally a month away, we are still unsure about where we want to go as a United States. Nobody's trying to backtrack. Nobody's trying to do what has happened the last 4 years. But at the same time, if you think about it, you want to see yourself in a situation where you still have to be uncertain about the future. And I don't think that's necessarily a thing for us. Like we, at this point in 2020, we need certainty, and Joe Biden isn't providing certainty for us.
Just real quick, piggybacking off of what Ty just said, Joe Biden lost like half the millennials or half the Gen Z or half the radical left, as Trump calls them, when he said, I'm not for defunding the police.
That was what it did.
There's a large subset of folks that was like, well, I'm done. Click, turn off. Literally. So there he this radical left thing that Trump's trying to pin him on, that ain't this. That's not this. Because there's a whole bunch of folks that were like, nope, that was it for me.
And that's suppressing the vote. That's Trump's plan to suppress the vote.
Exactly.
And it was all in Trump's plan to say that at the moment, like that's completely calculated. That's not him. That was
missed. But what was missed is the fact that he said he has law enforcement in multiple states supporting him. And so you have to, when it comes to these games, and that's exactly what's being played right now, are political games, you have to pay attention to everything that comes out of their mouth. Because even when he was talking about mail-in ballots, he contradicted himself within the same sentence and said, oh, it's fraud, it's fraud. They're sending millions of ballots out. They're being found in rivers and on the streets, and it might be months before we actually get any results or anything, and it's fraud. And when Wallace said, well, what do you suppose that they do? They secure the vote. They request to vote, and then they get it, and then they vote, and then they send it back. I said, that is literally a mail-in ballot. Literally, you literally just described the process of a mail-in ballot. So you cannot say, say things against mail-in ballots and how they are going to be fraudulent. And you just described and suggested the process for mail-in ballots. So you
described the process he went through as a citizen in Florida, because he got his own mail-in ballot and voted for it.
That part.
Yeah.
So it's like you really are playing these political games and trying to do this tit for tat. And I missed one of my favorite parts was when he implied that Biden was what did you just say Biden was the lowest in his class and imply that he was dumb?
That man said he did more in 4 years than Joe Biden has done in 47. That's what he said.
Well, we know that Donald Trump paid for his degree.
And then there's that.
And then there's that.
We also know that he avoided the draft by claiming that he had bone spurs. Okay, so he was he's considered a draft dodger. Mm-hmm. However, right now, he is the commander-in-chief of the military. So,
who Biden said that he called losers.
Someone that dodged the draft. So I wanted to say this, right? I think I want to level set here because I hear the frustration, right? I hear, and Kia, you're gonna be like, you know what? Y'all need to come through the cabinet because we talk about this. We talk about this. The problem is with, and Tyranna, you're a great example. Like 1 year, it like holding on.
Listen,
we're dangling in this millennial world, and Gen Z, and then it's the same thing with Gen X, right? What do they call them? Zenzers, Xers, something like that. They have a name where Generation X and Millennials meet. I'm peak millennial, right? Right smack dab in the middle, defined by us. The problem is what you like. A lot of times, especially for Gen Z, younger Gen Z, this is going to be their first time voting. So I'm going to say that while we maybe Biden did lose a few tonight, what we don't have is accurate polling. And we won't have accurate polling. Polling, like the laws, is decades behind technology. So it's not caught up with where we are. So current polls, most polls are still conducted by home telephones. We don't have those. And when you poll Gen Z, you poll millennials, I have one, I believe, with my cable package because I knew that, it's a triple play. I don't know that number, but the pollster knows that number, and they're calling. When we think about polls and how, can any of you raise your hand if you've ever been polled by a pollster for exactly? You're not going to probably talk to anybody that has been. They call it a margin of error, but times have changed, right? Because they don't call mobile phones. And so we need to find a way to influence that with our radicalism, millennials, and we need to get involved in that. But I like to offer this. There are tons of people, like the statistics tell us that people don't actually start voting in general elections usually until they're around 27 or 28. And if a general election doesn't come until, they turn 30, maybe until 30. And it's because they feel like, oh, that's an old people thing, voting, whatever, it doesn't really affect me. This time we had a number of people affected. Old, middle-aged, young. For the high school person that had their senior year robbed from them because Donald Trump would not listen, he didn't want to protect this country. That high schooler, that high schooler that just graduated at home is pissed. Trust and believe, it's pissed. That college student that has had a taste of freedom for a year and their school said, go back home. And now they're back at home with their mama.
Wash
whoever.
Why are you talking about my son like that?
I'm not really coming for Cam, but I'm just,
Yeah, that man,
they're back home. And while he may be free at home, he's not. The full freedoms that he had without oversight are not there. He's pissed, right? That's pissed. He's gonna talk about with his friends, not with you, but he's pissed. He's also gonna talk about it at the polls. He's gonna go. There's no censors here, but on the radio it would block me when I say Donald Trump because that's literally they're going. But these Gen Zers that usually would not go to the polls until they're 27, 28, 29, right? So think about this. There's a larger than a 5% margin of error with these polls because these people are pissed. The Gen Zer that just graduated from college and was supposed to start their job or their internship that was going to move them into their job, and they were supposed to move to California for that. They're back at home right now, still waiting. And that what they thought they were going to move into may dry up. They may have to go on a whole nother route. What they got their degree in may not even be viable anymore after this pandemic is over. They are pissed also. They are going to vote. So I think that's one thing we got to keep in mind, that there are people that are really enraged that no party is taking into account. I don't think Joe and Kamala are thinking about Gen Z. Honestly, I really don't.
But we talked about this. I think it was on another cabinet that I visited, one of the shows, I don't remember, where I said if they got a strategist or three and split up what the groups and the categories that they need to hit and split up the different topics, both sides, Trump and Biden, Pence, God bless him, and Harris, all have problematic policies, histories, legislative past. If Biden and Harris would just spend some time on strategy and really they should have been more ready for Trump to come after Biden on that crime bill.
I hear you, but they're not going to be. So we have to be those evangelists. We have to be those people. And that's just where we are. That is, evangelism is a word that and again, church, y'all got to keep up because a lot of companies are taking it. They are hiring evangelists to do their work and calling it evangelists. Microsoft specifically, they are hiring tons of evangelists to go in there, and it's a word that they're using. And people don't even think church when they hear that because the church, whatever. That's why you can't be whatever. My point here is this. There are people that are outraged or upset. But on the flip side, the key that we have to keep in mind, we got to keep this at the forefront of our minds. And we cannot let this go. And we're I'm frustrated with it. 44 times the president has been old and white. 44 times. So I understand frustration, young millennial. I understand your frustration, Gen Zer, but it's just not speaking to me. I'm not moved by it. I hear people that are like, I hate Trump, but when I hear him talk, he's invigorating, he's exciting. Y'all are literally the reality show generation. You are moved by things that seem moving. Presidents have not always been moving, okay? 44 times, old and white. There was one anomaly, just one. Barack Hussein Obama, and that was a gift, okay? It was just, that's not the norm. And I understand that if for the majority of your life, the president was black, you're like, well, why not? Anybody can be the president, but you've not been here that long, okay? 44 times, old and white. And so I think
and wrong.
Going going back to that statement, you have to be the evangelist. Like unless we make the conscious decisions to be those people that are starting the conversations and showing people things aside from what they see, right? Because a lot of the people that got frustrated with Joe Biden when he said that he didn't support one thing or the other tonight, and they're like, oh, well, that's it for me. We are still needed to go and show them that there are opportunities there for you to connect and change what you don't like.
Right.
You know, and it's not just the general elections. Get involved at the local level. Start small and work your way up, and you can start seeing change faster instead of thinking and putting all your eggs in one basket. Yeah, I'm sorry. I saw that shit.
No, that was it. Like, police departments are local. If you want to reform your police department, start with your local politicians. Who are you electing to your city council? And I think this is how we empower.
See your AirPods down.
We've all been there.
Yeah. We've all been there.
Damn Apple.
Okay, we can hear you now. We had lost you.
Okay. All right, but that's how you empower people to go to the polls to vote. You let them know how to work the system, and I'm not going to pretend like democracy is Black people's best friend. But if we work within the democracy, we challenge them, and we don't just leave it for them to work it itself. Think about everything that we've done to try to prevent Trump from burning the house down with all of us in it. From people showing up to protest when he first did the Muslim ban, to protesting about what was going on in the border. If we take to like writing letters to the editor, calling legislators, all these things that we've done over the last 4 years, if we take that energy and we do that to try to move the BREATHE Act, which is Movement for Black Lives policy around policing and making it around defunding police. That is how we push politicians left. We make our policies, the things that we want to see, popular enough that they have no choice but to keep on it.
100.
And it's not just, I think there's a lot of positions within local government that people don't know you have the power to vote for. I voted for my local sheriff this year in a runoff election. So there are many, many positions that you have the power to vote for. And not just that you have the power to vote for, but that you have the power and the right to hold accountable, whether you voted them in or whether they were appointed. You have the power and the right to hold them accountable. I was telling someone today about going to the Capitol and being a part of sessions and listening into sessions, listening into what type of legislation is being passed at the local level. Before I went and voted for any representative or any other position, it can list to you what their voting record is. That's on every level of government. You can see what did they vote for, what bills did they sponsor, what did they support, what did they not support, what did they co-sponsor. What was their job before this? What is their job now? Because not all local representatives have that as a full-time job. So what do they do outside of that? And not just representatives, but again, your sheriff, your judges, your lawyers, or whatever. So pay attention and be mindful of that in its totality, local and federal. The power really is in our hands. One of the examples in the documentary that I was talking about was talking about Flint, Michigan, and how they got basically financial dictators that they tried to vote out. They were successful in their vote, but then a law was passed that basically went around what their vote was. Pay attention to stuff like that because it can make the difference between you having clean water or not. That is just how important voting is. And I think that is not, like Erica said, like Kia has said, like Tariana has said, scaring us into the vote is not going to work. I think what I need from both sides are policies. Now, I did notice the stark difference between Trump and Biden's timelines. Trump was tweeting ads, political ads, while Biden was tweeting quotes and policy plans and whatever. But I need policies. We need policies, and I think that's what's missing from this campaign thus far. We don't have enough policies, and so it is becoming a one policy, one topic, one category, one issue vote. They hear or we hear one thing, and then we're like, okay, well, that makes up my mind. But if you just give us some policies or plans behind what that is. Yes, Biden said, he's not necessarily for defunding the police, but he did talk about reimagining what that means. Now, that loses a lot of people, but if we can get a firmed out plan of what that looks like, we might be in a better position. Whereas you have Trump on the other side saying he has law enforcement supporting him. There's a reason for that. So, we cannot afford to make this a one issue election. We just can't. And so I think it is on us to continue to reinforce the idea of making those that we elect accountable. I don't really believe that we have the power to hold asshat accountable.
I think on policy, I want to go back to and as we kind of bring this to a close, I want to talk a little bit about why it's so important to be involved on that local level, because we're now seeing the same thing that we saw happening in Flint, Michigan. Now we're seeing the same thing in Texas, in Lake Jackson, Texas. There's a flesh-eating amoeba in the water supply. We also find that area, it's right outside of Houston, is a majority Black and brown community, Black and Latino community. So once again, here we are. And if there's anything that makes a country a third world country, it's the lack of available drinking water, viable drinking water.
And did you catch Trump's statement about water tonight when he said it would be as free as water or something?
Yes,
I caught it and I was like, bro, that's kind of like if we're reading this bacteria that's found in this water supply, these people cannot drink their water at all. It is a do not use. Okay, don't shower with this. It is literally eating. It's a brain-eating amoeba that is eating the brains of. There's a 6-year-old boy that died from this bacteria. Who like what country? What this is the country that you can't drink the water. Really?
You can't swim in it. You can't take a shower. You can't take a bath. You can't this is not okay.
In the middle of a pandemic where you have to wash your hands, that's disproportionately affecting Black and brown folks.
I think also real quick, and I know that we're bringing this to a close, but I think also, my mindset goes directly. Originally in this debate, we were not going to have a question about climate change. That was the word on the curb, was that there was not going to be a question about climate change. And with the work that I do, that is one of the most important pieces to me. We did not have any questions about environmental justice. So when we want to talk about water, that's environmental justice. We're not talking about renewables. And renewables, like, I can do that all day long. Like, I can do that with the best of them. But environmental justice is drinking water, is fresh drinking water. There are many urban cities in this country that don't have drinkable water, that have lead in their water. Now, I just read that article, Alex, you talked about the flesh-eating amoeba, but the viable drinking water piece, I'm from Newark, New Jersey. There is lead in our water pipes at home. There is lead in water pipes in Michigan. Detroit is some places worse than Flint. So there are many urban cities, and no one's interested in changing those fast enough because the folks look like us, and that's just real talk. I think additionally, you can't have this conversation around climate change if you're not talking about the people that have to leave their homes because they don't have the option of staying home when the air quality is not bad. Is not viable on the West Coast where forests are going up in flames. They don't have the option of staying home. That is an environmental justice issue. I also would like to say that leaves on the ground in the forest, that's called autumn. So that's what that's called. It's not a cleanup, it's season. But I think that it is necessary for us to bring in those conversations. And like you said, this cannot be a one policy, one issue election. It has to be multi-issue, and we have to start bringing in some of these pieces that people don't want to talk about and that people can't skirt around. And last thing I want to say is talking about voting down the ballot. Tiff and I have talked a lot about the Public Service Commission. The Public Service Commission, your heat and water and all those bills going up, oftentimes your utilities commission is voted on. There's, I think, 12 states, 11 or 12 states that you vote on your Public Service Commission or your utilities commission. And then there's the other states that they're appointed by the governor. But if you're voting for your governor, then you're voting for who they're going to choose. In that particular instance, Georgia is the state where we vote on our public service commissioners, and we have public service commissioners on the ballot this year. So we have to make sure that we are voting down the ballot in that way, both from a law enforcement level, but also from your utilities, from your pocketbook. We have to really start thinking about how we're voting down and how we're educating ourselves. And oftentimes that's not as easy. So I'm really invested in or websites and organizations that are teaching people what's on the ballot and what those things actually mean and who those people actually are.
I think that's amazing, and enough people. I don't think that enough people are paying attention to what's happening with our environment and how important that is to their livelihood, to the air that they breathe, like to the things that actually matter, that keep things running. And I just there are so many things here, and we will be able to hit them all. We're back on Wednesday, October 7th, right after a vice presidential debate with Kamala Harris, the presumptive VP, and the current VP, Michael Pence. I can speculate what that's going to be like. I have a Mike Pence invitation. I'll save it for that night. I don't really think that I don't think we're going to see any debates like we've ever seen before during the season. And that's just where we are. Following that, we've got another presidential debate on Thursday, October 15th, where Joe Biden and Donald Trump will come and do it again. Final words. I guess encouragement for people that are hanging on by a limb and they're like, I don't want to do this. What do you say to them, Tariana?
Knew he was gonna call on me. Dang it. I'll encourage you as I encourage myself. I think it really goes back to what you said previously about this cannot be a one policy election. Like, we cannot get to the point where we've gotten upset or can't hear anymore because people have said one thing that we don't agree with. Like, we have got to hear people's policies and people's procedures. And with that being said, we actually have to have presidential candidates who are laying out their policies and their procedures. I think one of the commentators said that this is one of the most terrible debates I've ever seen in my life because it literally is a fight of the fittest. Like, we're arguing with each other and trying to tell each other to shut up, and nobody is hearing what has to be said. Like, I literally tweeted, this is literally what happens when the lead pastor and the head of the deacons board get into it. I'm not hearing you. I'm just arguing with you. So I think as a country, as a generation, as an African-American race, we have got to stomach this information, chew the meat and spit out the bones so that we can make our voices count and matter. So we're not sitting in these places and listening to this stuff and cutting the TV off because we've gotten upset with one thing that somebody said versus hearing their entire platform. So at the hopes that the presidential candidates are watching, do us a favor. State your claim, be bold, be brief, and be seated so you can give the people something to look for when they go to vote.
Be bold, be brief, and be gone. Words told to me by a pastor at one point. Erica, your final words.
I think my final word is if we become complacent, if we become jaded, I'm talking to me. I'm preaching to myself right now, so don't mind me. If we become jaded and complacent, if our ancestors had ever become jaded and complacent, some of the things that we have received, we would not have received. And so, if for no other reason than my future children and for future generations in my family and the people that I care about, I'm going to do what I need to do on November 3rd. I think that it is important for us to sift through, as hard as it is, get you a drink and sift through the nonsense to get to the policies that have been put in place or that are being proposed, and vote for the policies. And voting for the man, for the person is tough. It's tough to sift through all of that noise to see the policies, but we have to do that. And if for no other reason, if you're not gonna, if you just can't put your ex next to one of those dudes, vote down the ballot. Learn what's on your local ballot, because those are the things that affect you daily. Learn what's on your local ballot, and for no other reason, go and vote there for that. And God bless us, everyone.
No, I totally hear you. I agree with you, and that's amazing advice. Vote down the ballot if you can't bring yourself to do it, which I hope you will. And we'll keep talking about it. Keep coming back. We'll keep talking about it. Kia, your final words.
I have to remind myself that this isn't just about me. This is about my child. This is about children who are yet to be born, and making sure I am doing my part to create a better society for them to live in. Or at least to prevent it from getting any worse. At the very minimum, that is my responsibility. And I heard a sick woman speak recently, and she said that the world her children in is not safer than the world that she grew up in, and like that breaks your heart, because as a parent, you want the world to be safer. So I think a lot about John Lewis's quote: "Do not get lost in a sea of despair. Be hopeful and optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, or a month, or a year. It's the struggle of a lifetime." And I think that's one thing that we can draw on our ancestors' strength, and not to give up, and not to walk away, because had they not done the work that they did, we wouldn't be here. And I think it's our duty, it's our call, it's our responsibility to do that work for those who are to come after us.
Real talk, and I think that I couldn't have said it better. I think as we kind of figure out how to navigate this space, knowing and keeping it at the forefront of it all, right? This is not about one person. This is not just about you. It's not just about me. It's really important. As always, Kia, thank you so much. I know, I know you'll be back. All right, Tiff, here we are. At the end of a night, it's a lot. It is a lot. It's a lot to digest. What I want to say, and I want to kind of piggyback off of what Kia said, I don't think that you can look at this and say this is all about me. I think that while we are putting so much emphasis on this general election, we don't do a better job. We don't do a great job, and we need to do a better job focusing on local elections. When I talk about local elections, I'm always reminded of back home, Atlanta. And I always say, like, when we talk about Black people and why they don't get involved, when you think about Old Nat, and I think about Old Nat like as what I know from Atlanta, Old Nat has looked the same. It has looked the exact same forever.
Right.
And so you're like, well, why don't Black people go out and vote? And it's because for those that do vote, or they see their grandmother go vote, or they see their mom went and voted, they see their area still look the same. It's time for some other people to rise up and really start to get involved in those communities that are not changing, right? I look at what Old Nat, and I use that community for people that don't know. It's a majority Black community outside of Atlanta. It's a booming economy, obviously. There is a large ministry there that's been there for as long as I can remember. And like I said, the area still looks the same. And so we can't put it on one faith institution. We can't put it on the government. We got to put that responsibility back on ourselves to go and get involved in these spaces and in these places to kind of make and affect that change. And I think for those of you that are disheartened by who you see, on the ballot for the White House, you're probably not as disheartened by what you see at home. And that's where you need to begin. That you'll be motivated when you start to see change in your own communities. And we have to be intent on doing that. We're dedicated to putting resources out there that you can connect with so that you are not left to your own devices trying to figure this out. I think that we have a responsibility to each other to do better. And I will say this boldly, something that I usually don't say just because I know anybody could be watching and anybody does be watching, right? Black people, we are really all we got. It's like we are really all we got. And it's like, white people, I know the white people that are going to send me messages like, we're standing in your corner praying for you, bro. We're advocating for you, bro. That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But you're not enough because the majority of you don't give a damn about us at all. And so I go back to saying that we are really all we got. We really have to make a difference amongst ourselves if we want to see some change. And so do not, I admonish you, do not be silent in this election. Do not let your voice be unheard. Do not put yourself into a position that you're going to regret the fact that you did nothing at all.
Absolutely. That part. All I can say is vote. I have said this on every show I have been on. He's got to go.
I wish I had your clip of you saying that, but
he's got
to
go. Enough is enough. 4 years of this bullshit is enough. And that, I can't say it any plainer than that. It is enough. People are literally dying. Over 205,000 lives lost in less than a year. That is insane.
Isn't it crazy?
It's insane. He's got to go. Between climate change, he literally said, "I brought back football." With his words, he literally said, "I brought back football." With his words.
I mean, there's no way that this man is incompetent, right? And so against just one other person, he's looking at a replica. Like there's nowhere to hide, right? But in 2016, there were 14 Republicans on the stage, right? He pulled these antics, the Frankenstein antics, and he was walking behind people and doing crazy things. You can't do any of that right now. He's very frustrated by it. You saw that tyrant in him want to just burst out. And so I think at this point, we have to be fervent. We just have to be consistent. We have to be persistent. And if we want to see some change, otherwise, there's going to be an exodus, right? Either things are going to change.
Yes.
I had a guest that came on my show from Vermont, NAACP director from Vermont. Actually, before we go, I want to play this clip. So if you guys hang with us, we're going to wrap. This is Tabitha Moore. She's the director of the NAACP for the Rutland area of Vermont. I know you don't think Black people live there. Tabitha had this to say.
To end racism peacefully, white people have to get it. Because we're not going to keep dying because white people don't want to get it, because they're too comfortable with where they are. Let's not play. So white people have to step up and get involved, not just in the NAACP or other organizations. They've got Surge that's showing up for racial justice. They got to do their own work and get right with it. Because if they don't, this is not going to end peacefully. But trust me, it's going to end. And I think that that's the piece where people, where people often forget.
That part.
And I stand with Tabitha when she says that. It's
one way or the other. It just is what it is.
And it's just this is where we are. And a lot of us, I know nobody signed up to be here, but we're here.
Right. I will second one thing that I thought it was very key that Biden did mention is iwillvote.com. Trump, of course, did not mention any site that would help voters vote. But Biden did. So iwillvote.com. It's very, very easy. Pick your state. It will help you either check your registration, make sure you have all of the information and the appropriate resources for mail-in ballots. If you are voting while living abroad, it has resources for that. Scroll to the bottom of the site and click voting while living abroad. It will also provide you with a list of polling locations. So that is whatever state. Of course, different states have different websites. We could get into that all day. But iwillvote.com will help you for your state and if you live abroad. This is not about parties. This is about voting. Vote. Just vote, please. So I just want to encourage everyone to check that link out, iwillvote.com. It'll show you where you can early vote, mail-in ballot drop boxes. There's quite a few. I actually saw one in Decatur here in Georgia. They're very colorful, but please, y'all, please, ma'am, please, sir, and everyone in between, please vote.
Do it for us.
That's it.
For it. All right, that's gonna do it for us. We are back with the debate after show on October 7th, right here. So make sure you come back. Tell somebody else to come and join the conversation. As always, it's a new day already. And in about 4 hours, I will be saying today is greater. So believe it, speak it, live it. You have to make the choice to be great. Your situation is not your destination, but make it your motivation. Okay? We are out of here. Unmuted Nation continues sometime, probably, right? And thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.